Before you call child services, it's not what it sounds like. But yes, my toddler made a crack garden and contributed to my mommy pot. Beautiful additions to the parenting portfolio. By the end of this video, you'll have a few fresh ideas to try with your littles, simple ways to add some whimsy to the week, and a heads up on which ones just aren't worth the hassle. I'm Ellen, once a teacher, now at home with my little ones, just journaling small things we try and sharing them in case they're helpful or spark an idea for other childhood makers out there. Let's go! This week seems to be flower themed, and our first activity was what I'm calling the crack garden. That sounds not good, but it was one of those random on a whim ideas that ends up as a core memory. My husband was doing work outside on the house, and I was trying to keep the kids busy on the driveway so they wouldn't run around on the street, and we had a few cracks in the pavement, so I had an idea. We picked dandelions, clovers, little leaves, flowers, and stuck them into the cracks. It started looking like a little wildflower fence or like a little wall, and we called it the crack garden. So I told my 3-year-old we were decorating the cracks to make the driveway look pretty, and she was so into it. We took out the watering can and we watered the crack garden. We watched it creep down the cracks like a tiny river, and she ran along to watch it as it poured in. It kept her busy for nearly an hour, which in toddler time is nothing short of a small miracle for us. Later on, we noticed the flowers were casting little shadows on the concrete, and my kids weren't quite old enough to care, but I grabbed some sidewalk chalk and traced the shadows just for fun, and it actually looked really cool. My eldest still asks to do it every time we walk on the driveway or near the cracks, so it's really stuck with her. I think you could also make it more complicated for older kids by adding zones and drawing almost like a map with the cracks as the boundaries, thinking like 100-acre woods or Lord of the Rings if your kids are even older. So my only concern now is her telling random people that we have a crack garden and that she helps take care of the plants. You never know what those grocery store conversations are going to be. Okay, for ages for the crack garden, I would say 18 months and up, even a year and up. As long as your kid's not trying to eat the flowers, you're probably good. For the cost, completely free. Set up and clean up, lazy mom for sure. Time spent, they spent a whole hour doing this before I got too hot and wanted to pack it in. And overall, I would give this one an A. I love this one. 0 prep, but core memory. Okay, our next activity was the mommy pot. Wow, crack and pot in one video. We're really doing well this week. It's basically like a little vase just for the random flowers your kids find for you. A few months ago, my husband and I went to a pottery class for date night, and I made this tiny, terrible vase. But when I brought it home, I realized this is my mommy pot. So now whenever we're out on a walk or waiting outside the doctor's office, wherever, my kids will find little flowers or weeds and say, "This is for the mommy pot." Half the time the flowers don't even make it home, but she's so proud of finding them. And when they do make it, it actually looks really sweet sitting on my windowsill. You definitely don't need to take a pottery class for this. Just check the thrift store with your kids, take them on a little trip, and pick out a quirky little vase or pot together, or like a little dish, and that'll make it just as special, just finding something quirky and unique. So for this one, I would say 18 months and up, kind of when they start to realize what gift giving is. For cost, free or very, very inexpensive. Set up and clean up, lazy mom, because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Time spent, I said 15 minutes for this one just because sometimes I'll literally make that our activity for the day or for the afternoon or whatever little time filler I need, and we'll go to the park and we'll pick a little mommy pot bouquet. And overall, I would give this one an A. I think it's going to be one of those little sentimental things that my kids remember forever, I'm hoping. Next up was a tie-dye flower bouquet. This was a craft made from coffee filters. It was pitched online as a science experiment, and maybe it is, but for us, it was super boring. You draw on coffee filters with markers, fold them in quarters, and then you dip the tip into a little cup of water. The ink is supposed to spread in a watercolor effect, and it does eventually, but wow, did it take forever. My toddler was over it halfway through, and she started asking to do last week's water bean experiment again. If you saw that video, you know why. If not, go check it out. That was my last one that I posted. Anyway, we made a bunch with rainbow colors, which did turn out way better than our single color ones. Once they dried, which took ages, it became a lot more fun for my 3-year-old. We crumpled them up and then we fluffed them out, shoved a pipe cleaner through the middle, and called it a flower. We even made little leaves with another pipe cleaner just wrapped around the stem. And then we put them all in a vase on our table, and my daughter feels so proud to have decorated the house. And honestly, they don't look bad. I love crafts that aren't ugly. They get total bonus points in my book if I can have them out and the house doesn't look like a daycare center. And then once she's soaked up all the joy from her crafts, we usually take a picture and recycle them. So far, she hasn't had an issue with that. And if she does, we hang the best ones on her bulletin board if she's having a little bit of a harder time letting go. But overall, this one was pretty darn slow and boring. Going back to our breakdown for ages for the tie-dye, I would say 16 months and up. The cost, free pretty much. Setup and cleanup, fun mom. It did take a little bit of setup and it did take a little bit of cleanup, which for a boring activity, let's just say this might not be one of the ones on rotation. Anyways, time spent, this one took a minimum of 2 hours. You could do this in 2 hours, depending on how fast your coffee filter's dry. I would give it a C for overall enjoyment. My eldest has not brought it up again, aside from just the fact that she's proud of the bouquet sitting on the table. I gave it an extra point just because it is kind of a cute piece that I don't mind having sitting on the table right now. So I gave it a B. It could also go with the C. Now for a show we've been loving. It's called Stillwater. It's on Apple TV, but you can also find the mini episodes on YouTube, which I just recently found. It's incredibly calm. Like, I forget it's even on. And that's the highest praise I can give a kid's show. Stillwater is a big, very gentle panda who lives next door to 3 kids. They usually run into some kind of problem or conflict, and Stillwater tells them a little story to help them out. There's Tai Chi, breathing exercises, and honestly, it's basically screen time therapy. I don't know about you, but I feel like we all need it when I'm home alone with my 2 toddlers. My kids are 3 and 1, and they're both totally into it, but they're not glued to the screen. They drift in and out, which is a sign that the show isn't overstimulating. It's something I look for when I'm recommending shows or when I'm committing to letting my kids watch a show all the way through. They often read books or color while it's on, and they don't turn into little zombies. It's not annoying for me when I'm cleaning or taking a break. It really checks all the boxes for me. If you don't have Apple TV, check YouTube for the short clips and bonus episodes. They're only 2 minutes long and they are just as sweet. Lastly, a book we found this week. It's called Wacky Wednesday. I'd never read it growing up, but my husband did. And we were in a used bookstore this past weekend. And when he saw it, he was like, we have to get it. Every page has a different number of wacky things on it, and it goes in order. My daughter is obsessed with spooky stuff and I Spy games. So while this isn't a spooky book per se, it is very strange. My daughter loves pointing out all the odd things, like a child with an old man beard, and it sneaks in some counting practice too, which is great. If your kid likes find the difference type activities or what's wrong with this picture type books, this is a really fun one for them. It's just the right mix of puzzles and weirdness. That's our week of small, happy things. Let me know if you try any of these or if you have a gentle show to recommend back to me. I'm always looking for more. Thanks for being here. See you next week with more things that may or may not work.